So we're back. First we'll start with this incredible tech bench. We are using the Z87-GD65 gaming that I unboxed last week to run all of today's overclocks, as well as just a basic aftermarket water cooler setup that I had kicking around. Thought it'd be good to use this for this review. Finally got used to the triple rad. Doesn't fit in any of the mini cases I've got, but it's working great on my kids' play table. I'm also running the GTX 770OC gaming edition as well, and currently the processor is still running at 4.9 GHz stock. I am running Windows 8. I do love Windows 8. I know a lot of you are going to hate that comment. Give it a chance. It's a great OS if you get used to it, especially if you work with servers, if you work with overclocking. It's pretty rock solid once you get around. No start button, the usual little things, no big deal. But the board was actually very easy to overclock. I did spend a couple hours here finding the nice smooth 24/7 kind of overclock settings without any major heat issues. And next I'll show you those settings. Stay tuned. As you can see here, this system's overclocked to the 4.9 GHz like I was talking about earlier. We are at 1.422 on the voltage. Not bad at all. I could actually push this thing farther, but due to the fact that you can see this is an engineering sample chip, the last thing I want to do is destroy something that's not mine. So once I get a retail chip, we're going to see this go a lot higher, and we'll maybe push it till we kill it, just see what that endpoint is, because lots of people always ask, what's that farthest point I can push it before it actually dies? And why not do it? And you can see the RAM's running at the 1200 MHz, so actually the 2400, right as it's designated to. It's actually pretty quick RAM and it's extremely stable. Very impressed with it. At idle here, we're sitting under 50 Celsius, ranging around 40 to 45. Thus far during stress tests, this is maxed out at 80 Celsius, which is pretty phenomenal for an overclock chip, where I've been reading other reviewers out there who are actually maxing these things out at almost 100 Celsius on stock, which is pretty scary. But then again, there is fanboys out there who do mock new AMD, new Intel products when they come out there and kind of construe their numbers. So hopefully we're not going to see too much of that. And I'm hoping that this chip is, for retail, just as good as the ES sample I've got today. So let's go into the BIOS and see how we got here. As the system powers back up, I'd like to note that I am not actually rapidly clicking delete like the good old days. I'm actually clicking the straight to BIOS button on the motherboard, which is just amazing. And we're now into the ultra cool new BIOS it's got here. So if we go down to our overclock settings here, you'll see that I stuck the base clock with stock. I didn't modify that. I did adjust the CPU ratio up to 49. I adjusted the ring ratio. Always leave this below your actual ratio to 46. It seemed most stable here. I push any higher and I won't even get a post, which is kind of odd. The RAM is running the Intel XMP profile and running at 2400 megahertz without any issues. I have ran this in override mode instead of adaptive. A lot of other reviewers out there who have been talking back and forth with, they're all loving adaptive. It runs great on Asus, runs great on Gigabit. It does not run great on MSI. Override mode, it will be your best friend if you're overclocking these boards. With override mode enabled, I've had zero issues with a post. The only problem is once it's pushed this thing too high, get into Windows, I will see crashes and stuff if I go over the 5.1, 5.2. 1.4, fully stable, pushed it through all my stress tests. Got my offset at 0.25. It seems to help with the stability quite a bit. So our current total is 1.432. Again, the ring, the voltage ring is, which is a new cool setting for Haswell, is in override mode again at 1.35 with a 0.25 offset, making us just below 1.4 volts, giving us no problems. RAM, I stuck manually at 1.65 as it kept trying to push it down to 1.5 and then obviously wouldn't post. So now we're going to go to CPU features. I've disabled limit, as well as I have disabled the Intel Adaptive Thermal Monitoring, the C state, and by doing this, I found I can get complete stability, and I'm really impressed with the system. I do have my fans running at 100% during the process of this, even though there's only 3 of them, and they're not too loud. And that's it. There wasn't a whole lot of complexity to this. If I enabled the OC mode, it's kind of sad. Right now it just runs your RAM at its fastest setting, as well as pushes the processor up to 4 gigahertz. Not bad for an average user. They're gonna just need that for just that little extra push. But in all reality, I think MSI could have pushed this thing a little farther. I run the overclock mode on it as well, and I get 4.1, so you can definitely manually push these things a lot farther. And the settings and everything else in this are quite impressive. I also like that they have adapted in here, as you can see the little GUIs that are plugged in here. You have a hardware monitor that's just like they've had on their previous generations here within Windows, is now built into your BIOS, telling you core temperatures, system temperatures, fan speeds, everything else, with it looking a lot more snazzy than it used to. So I'm pretty impressed with this. I have saved this overclock profile, and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any other questions, always push them down in the comments, and next week next weekend's Father's Day, so I won't be here, but the weekend after that, let's focus on overclocking the graphics card, and we'll focus on gaming with these series, because why have a gaming series if you're not going to be gaming? Okay, thanks guys, and this is Soulless1 signing out.
Somebody's got soul. If somebody